Hello, good morning and welcome to the DKB Ice Canal. We're in Altenberg, close to the Czech border, in the former kingdom of Saxony in Germany. And as you can see, those of you who watched yesterday's racing from the Wiesmann FIBT World Cup, the weather has not improved a great deal. It is wet and miserable this morning, but that's not going to stop us having fun with today's two-man race. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martin Haven, and I'm delighted that sitting alongside me once more is Olympic champion Kaylee Humphries. Kaylee, the weather is going to play an enormous factor here. Last year we had snow, this year we have rain, but wherever the weather is, Altenberg is a great driver's track.
No, it definitely is. I mean, this is one of the most challenging tracks that we come to on the circuit, and weather does play a factor into that. The straightaways, the corners, I mean, not all the corners or the straightaways are covered, so every single time you're not quite sure of what you got to do, and you have to change your driving style according to the weather.
Well, a long, flat starters track. Even corner one, named after Matthias Benisch, who now manages the track, he crashed there. You can crash at any corner on any track.
You definitely can. And the corners come and they link one into one, and they definitely, I mean, it doesn't stop. The track just gets faster and faster, but you have to be precise on certain parts of the track to have any type of speed or to be able to get a decent time at the bottom. And one little mistake, especially at the top where it's so flat, I mean, that can kill you. Going into Kreisel there, you've got a long straightaway. Kreisel, again, you have to be precise in order to come out nice. There's a bit of a flat part down through corners 11, 12, 13. Again, you come into 14, and you really have to take the speed here with you before this long flat down into 15, and then it's just bam, 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 and high pressure down at the bottom. This track never gives up, but definitely some parts that you really have to nail.
Well, lots of pressure. Does it remind you at all of Whistler, somewhere quick like that?
Yes and no, not so much. I mean, it's a little bit like more extreme version of Calgary and Lake Placid kind of put together. The speed portion and how fast it comes at you, yes, but it's kind of a little bit of Whistler, Calgary, and Lake Placid kind of all mixed together.
Well, top two in the World Cup, Steve Holcomb, Alexander Zubkov. Both have had success in the two-man competition so far. Lyndon Rush will be racing here today, and Manuel Mahata leading the German challenge as well. The Russian and US sleds, along with a few of the other nations, are in St. Moritz training up for the World Championships. And that's given us a slightly different look to the top 10. And what it does do, Kaylee, is give the sleds that have come here a great opportunity perhaps to earn more points than they might otherwise expect to. So, first of all, everybody that comes here to this Altenberg track knows you've really got to be focusing on your game. And secondly, of course, it's a great opportunity perhaps for some of the, guys wouldn't normally get into the top 10 to star and to really show what they've got.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, every single race poses different challenges and different things, but it's great to see, Jan Verba and Heath Spence from Australia and those guys being able to be put in the top 10 rotation, because this, I think, is the first time we've ever seen that happen.
Absolutely right. Some of the minor nations. There's John Jackson of Great Britain. He's got a different lineup here. He's got Dave Coleman on the back of the sled. Last year's winner there, Thomas Florschutz, with a beast of Kevin Kuska behind him. Florschutz, well, of course, this was the track at which in the four-man race he injured his leg and ended his season, and that has taken a while to come back. Lyndon Rush, like everybody else, warming up and trying to stay warm there in a rainy parking lot at the top of the track. And for the first and probably, let's be honest, only time in his career, Jan Verba of the Czech Republic gets start draw number one ahead of Manny Mahata. August Zalims, the young Latvian who's only been driving for a couple of seasons, goes off at 3. Francesco Friedrich, who's just won the Junior World Championships in 2- and 4-man, he's off at start draw number 4 ahead of John Jackson, and Heath Spence and Thomas Florschutz round out the top 10. We've got 18 sleds. They will go in their start draw order. Top 10 in a random draw, the rest in their FIBT ranking. So that's the total of all the points they've earned so far this season. And as you can see, everybody is zipped up to the nose here, wrapped up to the nines. It is pretty damp, pretty miserable, blustery, squally rain showers have been blowing through here since yesterday lunchtime. And the Ice Meister, as ever, has done a great job to keep this track in some kind of raceable state. First sled on the ice, Wiesmann FIBT World Cup number 6 for the two-man bobsleigh is Jan Verba with the veteran brakeman Jan Stoklaska behind him. Let's see what they've got to open the show. Start record 5:12, December 2003 that was set. We're probably not going to see that trouble today at all.
No, track looks really wet, especially in these first 3 corners. They're not really covered, and you really got to make sure that you're not hitting walls or skidding at all. Definitely starts to pick up corner 3 down in through corner 6 here. This part, corners link one into another, and it's fairly flat. You really got to be able to nail it. Corner 9 here, this is tricky corner. 9 is the corner, one that usually ends up scaring the pants off most people. You got to get it right, and there's a long straightaway down into Kreisel. So far, he's having a decent run. A few little bumps here and there, a few little things, but overall, Sud looks in control, and see how he does. Nice straightaway down into 50.
The sled goes light there over that brow, doesn't it? And you can, you know, if you're not straight, you can get a big skid going that really just robs you of time down to the line. Czech Republic, of course, just across the border from us here in Altenberg. You get into Czech Republic. In fact, Prague is as close to the track as Dresden is to the north. So this is very much their home track, and both of the Czech sleds are here. So a 58.19 slide, all-time track record set by Alexander Zubkov and Alexei Vojevoda back in 2006. It's a 54.6 second slide. Well, it's a long start, Kaylee. You've got to make sure you really run it out over the brow.
It definitely is. This is the longest start we've got on tour, the longest and flattest. And trust me, when you are up there pushing, it feels like it takes forever. You just have to keep going and keep pushing.
At least you don't have the altitude of La Plane to deal with.
That's very true.
So Jan Stuklaska and Jan Verber there, the driver of Czech 1. Next up, Manuel Mahata, and on the back of the 2-man sled with Manny is Christian Poser this morning. Well, Mahata needs to find a little bit of magic. Needs a sprinkling of magic dust again. He seems to have flattened out a little bit in his career path. Next weekend, of course, we go to home for him, which is the Koenigsee track in Bavaria. The Czech started 5:46. These guys should be down into the 5:20s. No, 5:48.
That is not a very good start. I think that's where we're really starting to see Manny struggle this year. I mean, he doesn't quite have the starts that he's been used to the last couple years, and he's an amazing pilot. He really knows what he's doing, especially on this track. But there's only so much you can bring back from a start. I mean, already 1800s ahead, I think we're going to see, you know, that continue to drop. And on this track, it's possible. This is a driver's track, and there are a lot of areas where if you know this track, you can make up time. So we'll see that, and he should still be in contention by the bottom, but a 5:48 is a bit behind off at the start.
A little rattle from 11 to 12. 1:11.1. The Czechs were doing 1:15.7, so I beg your pardon, 1:17.2 at the bottom. That's a little bit better. 72.8 miles an hour.
That was a really nice run from Manny.
Yeah. 57.32. Again, track record 54.64, but you need beautiful clear skies and ice-cold conditions for that, and we certainly don't have those today. Of course, the artificial refrigeration system, even though the air is well above freezing, that will keep the ice on the track. Well, now, what's happening at the start? How is it they've been outstarted by the Czech Republic?
It's hard to say right now. I mean, the start, you're going to go from the really frosty conditions where it's underneath that roof to extremely slick and wet as soon as you come out from that roof, and you're still driving. He definitely had a hit out of Kreisel that's going to kill your speed a little bit, but we didn't see too much of a speed drop or a time difference by the bottom.
Well, next up for Latvia is Ugis Zalims in the 2010 Winter Games in Whistler, where Kaylee won her Olympic gold medal. He was a brakeman, and now he is in his second season as a driver. And this is, of course, the way the Latvian program has gone. You know, they get the beasts from the back and stick them on the front, exactly as the Canadians did with you, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Canadians, Americans, Ben Hefty. I mean, that's the way that the sport is going now, and that's where the start is so critical and important. And Latvia is definitely leading the charge in that way. Latvia is amazing starters. They're extremely strong. I mean, yes, they've got their brakemen coming in the front, but 5:44. I think the start is just, it's just not there today.
No,
it is very slow. It is, I think, you know, if, yeah, I mean, high 30s is, I'm going to say, is going to be
time. If somebody gets into the 30s, they're going to be doing really well, I think, maybe in these conditions. Nice and smooth run so far. Now, of course, the track is a little... Oh, dear. Yeah, so much for that attitude eye. He hits everything going.
9 is a very challenging corner this year. Some years they can shape the ice with scraping it and spraying it and putting more ice on to make it a little easier. This year it's a bit challenging, like we saw. I mean, to come out of there, to go straight, take that speed, and to not hit ping pong. A big hit and skid all the way down, out of corner 14 down into 15-2. That's definitely, he's got a lot of room for improvement on that run, and that was not very nice.
Sanders Bruce's shakes his head in a kind of loving father manner. That's not that he is his loving father, obviously, but looking after this young driver. And, yeah, just about every error that's conceivable to make, that was a run he would have happily left in training.
It definitely is. I mean, this track's hard. The corners are going to be super frosty. You can see the ice difference out of corner 9, where it looks frosty and then it goes super slick. And if you are not coming out of there dead straight and with pressure, and you hit and lose that, you're just going to skid everywhere, and it's kind of like hydroplaning. And for a new pilot, somebody that's only been driving a couple years on one of the hardest tracks, I mean, it can be really intimidating. You see the back of the sled really lift up there out of 15. Real sketchy in that part. It doesn't quit right till the end, but, you know, made it down, and he'll definitely be looking to better that for a second run.
Yep, tidy any of those mistakes up, he'll be well off. Now, Francesco Friedrich, he is the local boy here. He's got the green colours of Saxony on the sled. He comes from Pirna, just down the road. It's about 25 kilometres from the track, and this is his home ice. He's just won the Junior 2 and 4-man World Championships, so that has earned him by right a berth in the World Champs, which means Germany will have 4 sleds and a 5:29 getaway. There we go. That's what I was expecting, maybe from Mahata's crew. That's a proper German start.
That is a great start, especially in these conditions. And I mean, he's really set himself up to have a great run here.
He's doing 29s. Is Melbardis going to get into the teams for Latvia? We're going to have to see that good-looking run so far. And again, you'd expect that, you know, this is where he took his first ever slide. This is still the track he knows best.
Yeah, definitely. You're seeing him ahead of everybody here. I mean, he definitely had the fastest start by 2:10s. He's maintained that lead. Still 2:10s down by the bottom, but so far this run, it's looking really smooth, really clean.
Same speeds as Mahata. Mahata's 1:17.2 at the bottom, 1:18.1. He's accelerating away. He will take a lead of over 0.3 of a second, surely, from Manny Mahata. A 57 flat, and that's a great run from Francesco Friedrich. A big start from him and Janis Becker on the back of the sled. And, you know, Mahata's given away, I guess, about maybe 5 or 6 years in terms of age to this guy, but clearly Friedrich is a big name for the future of German bobsledding.
No, he definitely is. Young pilot, can start. Obviously, we saw it here, Brakeman and him. I mean, you really see the power in through both of those guys. 5:29, I mean, it's a really great start, and he drove well. He drove very well. A clean run altogether, no major mistakes. Comes out of corner 9 here. Slides a little bit off, a slight little tap there on the right, adjusts it, and he goes straight the rest of the way. It doesn't get too much better than that.
Big smile on his face, and why not? Still just 21 years old, and he's got a long future in German bobsledding.
Definitely does.
Now then, John Jackson of Great Britain, start draw number 5, about where you want to be when some of the frost has been cleared off the track, but not too much rain has got onto it. Dave Coleman on the back handles. There you can see Pete Gunn, the coach. Good morning, Jackie Gunn, if you're watching back home. She is due to give birth, former British brake woman, rather thoughtlessly during the middle of the World Championships, which is a little bit of an awkward timing. But let's see what Jacko has got. Dave Coleman getting his first World Cup start of the season. So nervy times.
Like I said before, the start is important here. 5:55. It's a little bit off the pace. He's not going to be super happy or thrilled with that start. It's going to come down to the drive. The drive does make a difference on this track, and you can do a lot. As we saw with Manny Mahata, I mean, you can be behind and you can really bring it back on this track. And so we'll see what John can do here. He's an experienced pilot. He's been on this track plenty of times, and so far having a good run.
Jacko's regular crew are back home in the UK, training up for the run into the World Championships in St. Moritz. 1:10.3, Francesco Frugic was 1:10.5 going into the Kreisel, so he's got really good speed on the way out as well. Not too far behind the race leader, and the gap is extending from 2,600 at the start to 5,600s, 1:16.4 at the bottom. Not as quick as the German, 2 kilometers an hour down. Comes home in 3rd place off that run so far, so behind Mahata and Friedrich, but ahead of Jan Verber of the Czech Republic and Ugi Zalims.
Wasn't the best run. A few little mistakes here and there, and definitely a few skids out of 14, a few little taps, 2 taps out of corner 9 going down into Kreisel. Just areas that you're going to need to go straight on, areas that you're going to need to really nail, and so he'll look to clean those up for second run for sure, and he'll be able to move a couple spots if he does.
Dave Coleman, his first start with Jacko this season, apart from a couple of runs in training. So those little nerves you get, and you can see that's evident there as he jumps into the sled, just getting himself caught. That's understandable, but now that that's out of the way, hopefully it'll be a little faster, a little smoother in the second heat. Well, next up, Italy's Simone Bertazzo. He's got Francesco Costa behind him, but 3 new Italian brakemen rocked up on the scene at the beginning of the week here. So he has got some more motive power behind him, and we'll see a couple of them, I'm sure, in tomorrow's 4-man race. Bertazzo's had a couple of career wins in World Cup in 2-man. 5:43 getaway.
That's not a bad start.
It's not bad.
That's not bad. I mean, it's in and among the rest for the top couple starts, which is, you know, as fast as we've seen Simone this year.
Yeah. Again, you know, some of the real start monsters, Holcomb and his crew, and Zubkov and his crew aren't here, but you can only race against who shows up, can't you?
Yeah, you only can. He's having a nice run so far. I mean, Simone really knows how to drive sleds, and he knows this track, and you're really seeing it. Looks smooth, looks nice. I mean,
yes, it got great speed. Only 109 into the Kreisel, just over 110 coming out, so 68 miles an hour. 116.8 at the bottom, just a whisker quicker than Team GB, who just came down, but he's in 4th spot at the moment. Just ties the British team at the line.
this track sometimes is really difficult to say, because although the runs look clean and smooth, the speed and the time just isn't there, and some of the runs can look a little bit out of control, and the speed and time is there. So it's yeah, sometimes it's a little confusing.
Well, the other thing I'm thinking, Kelly, is, you know, we had a couple of conversations up on the track this morning about runners. What about runners? You know, actually what you want is water skis, but does the rain really change what you think?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's difficult here. I mean, in the rain, the ice is going to be a little bit softer. That's just weather stuff that you can't control. I mean, you're going to use different runners in frost. You're going to want a thinner radius runner, but in the rain...
You want a thin runner in the frost, you want a fat runner when it's wet.
When it's wet and warm and rainy. So you kind of got to do a combo of both and see what happens. And, you know, some teams are going to have those opportunities with lots of different runner choices, and some aren't.
Sometimes if the choice is taken away from you, you just have to get on with it. Maybe that's the best way. Doesn't cloud your thinking. Lyndon Rush of Canada next up. Lascelles Brown on the back handles of the sled. Again, if we saw Francesco Frugic getting into the 5:29s, then King is not going to be happy to be outside a 30, is he?
No, he definitely is not.
Oh, an unfortunate load. It's a 36, but got a bit of a tail slide going on there as Lascelles loaded into the sled.
Yeah, he ran it real deep, loaded right at the grooves, and unfortunately that caused that back into the sled. Luckily, Lyndon had the D-ring, so it prevented a hit on the wall, but definitely any velocity that they had at the push is gone.
Yeah. 1500s behind Francesco Frugic at the moment. That would still see them in second place if he can tidy up the straightaway.
Couple hits and definitely some skids. That ping pong action going down the straightaway is it's not ideal, and it's really hard. The track flattens out after Kreisel, and that straightaway down into 9 you're going to be able to take with you.
Still a fraction behind Francesco Frugic, still in second place.
He's got good speed, got good times. He's made a few mistakes, and that's really where he's lost it so far. I mean, to only be 3/10 behind with those couple mistakes, decent, and so that's definitely given him room to move forward for a second run, and he's definitely going to want to clean up out of exit of 9. They're definitely going to want to, you know, load a slight bit earlier in the start, and out of corner 14 into 15, he'll want to not have that skid.
Well, because of the weather, we saw, well, let's take a look at the start again. Now, normally, Lascelles Brown is a very smooth loader, but the sled was rocking even before he got in, and then just kicked out sideways.
He did. He chucked himself into that sled. It's usually something that Lascelles has more over other people, is that really aggressive load. Unfortunately, on this track, because it is so flat, you're trying to run it out as far as you can to give yourself the most benefit, and it cost him a little bit by loading aggressively right at or where the grooves end.
Francesco Friedrich, our race leader, by 3/10 from Lyndon Rush, who's a whisker ahead of Manny Mahata. And then there's a tie for 4th, Great Britain and Italy. Next up is Oskars Melbardis, Latvia 1, with Dāmons Triskins behind him, 2 former brakemen. Melbardis now team leader for Latvia's bobsled drivers, with Dāmons right behind him. And our network coordinator, John Morgan, confidently predicts a 5.20 start for the Latvian. Let's see if he's on the money, as he so often is. Well, our fast start so far from Francesco Friedrich, 5.29. Triskins right in the back of the sled there. Very unique way of pushing it off the blocks.
Definitely is. He's a strong, powerful guy, though, and he gets himself right into the sled. The sled is as far back closest to the block as possible. You only have those 50 meters, and you want to use every little bit that you can.
49.4, very good momentum. Nobody quicker through the first speed trap. So he really got away strongly, not just fast, but with lots of power. 900ths of a second behind Francesco Friedrich now, and this is where the difference will come. He doesn't have Friedrich's experience of this ice, but a great exit from 9, rattles the wall.
Almost had it, came out of 9, the best we've seen anybody come out of 9 today. That was really nice, and just, I mean, that's that little bit of hydroplaning, especially on the straightaway where it isn't covered and all that rain comes. You can have a good exit, and...
Wow, you can see the runner tips flashing away there as he tries to straighten up the slide, and just about every mistake that can be made is being made here. 6th position, 57.98, that leaves him almost a second off the lead. Well, again, you know, it's lack of driving experience. Again, 2010, he was a brakeman, not a driver. So, you know, he's had 2 years on this track, you know, 20 trips, tops.
Yeah, you can tell he's not very happy with it. He definitely made, you know, quite a few driving errors, but this track is very intimidating, and this track definitely, you know, will eat you alive if you are not 100% confident, don't know what you can do. Corner 3 comes out of there, hits the right wall. Corner 3 is a key spot for speed. As you can see here out of 15, you can see him trying to change those runner tips, really trying to move those runners and straighten himself out. But the skids are really what gets you, especially in the water and the rain with the puddles.
You see it here, don't you? See the spray coming up.
You really do. So it's, yeah, it's a hard track to really nail.
Next up, for Chris Spring is Heath Spence with Stig on the back, Lucas Mata, and Lucas on the back handles with an Aussie tattoo on his legs. It is only a temporary one. Apparently his girlfriend, his sister said he's not allowed a permanent one. It's just too daddy. It's a great opportunity for the Aussies. You know, they've been here since Christmas. They've got friends and family with them. But starting in the top 10, a really good opportunity to shine here in Altenberg.
Yeah, and a 5:58 for them. I mean, that's a decent start. We'll see how he can drive. He's been here quite a few times, but generally still, you know, a very inexperienced pilot.
48.4 in the first split, and he is 0.5 behind. Don't forget, we've just seen Oskars Melbardis, the fastest starter in the business, come down nearly a second off the lead. 109 kilometers an hour. He had better speed into the Kreisel than the Latvians. A couple more taps on the way out, still better speed. I tell you what, there's not much wrong with the way that this sled is cutting through the air.
No, it's not. He's actually doing an extremely good job. I mean, a few little taps and a few little skids here, but generally, you know, it's a decent run. A few little things to clean up, but overall, that was a pretty decent run we've seen from these ones.
Yep, and he is in front of Ugi Salems in 8th place. And you saw there the new coach for the Aussies. From a Dutch slider has been around a number of different teams and started with the Australians after Christmas. And you know, it's such a small team in Australia, but actually they got some really good speeds out of the sled, despite, maybe because of some of the high lines.
Yeah, definitely did. You saw him there in corner 13 go extremely high. That's a corner that you can, though. Sometimes you almost do nothing in that corner, and the corner kind of inverts you and lets you come out. A few little taps and skids there out of corner 14. Like you said, you go over that little bit of a jump, and if you're not dead straight and perfect with the pressure, you'll kind of lose either the front or back end, which causes the skid, and we just witnessed that.
Next up, last year's two-man race winner in the driving snow. It was Thomas Florschutz who claimed the gold medal for Germany. He's got Kevin Kuska behind him. The following day in the four-man race, he broke his leg and still completed the race. Now he is back to full health, it seems.
Kevin just looks like a beast behind that sled. Looks so big. Good load, 5:33. Great start.
Now this is a real challenge now for Francesco Friedrich, our race leader. They started just 0.04 of a second slower. And last year's winner, of course, has got plenty of experience on this ice.
Yes, Thomas knows this track. He knows it really well, inside and out. And so far, great run.
Florschutz also, of course, with a green of Saxony on it. 0.07 of a second away, 110.8. Friedrich was 110.5 there, so he's closing a little.
He is, and that exit of 9 down in through the straightaway was the best we have seen yet today. Really smooth, no taps, no skids. He's really, you're going to see the speed out of 14 there. Again, dead straight down into 15. He's got the fastest speed, and there's a reason for it. He is driving this track like he stole something. It's really, really awesome. 56.96, great run. Great
Love
run.
all from Christoph Langen. Germany go 1-2. Lyndon Rush, the only man at the moment, stopping at 1-2-3 for the German sleds. And two Saxon drivers, first and second on their home track. So they will both be very pleased with that. And if Florschutz is to go on and take the gold medal ahead of Friedrich, then the young German will be pretty happy to do as much as he can. Look at the power of Kuska, but even so, hauling the sled out of the grooves there is not the most efficient way of getting it to start.
No, it's not, but that start looks extremely sticky. It looks real frosty and really hard to get out, and you really just have to use every little bit of strength that you have to do it. Coming into corner 16 there, a smooth line. I mean, Florschutz just had smooth lines everywhere, and
look at the speed.
Top speed.
Top 3 sleds, all FES-built German sleds. And there, it's perhaps not the sled in this weather. It's got to come from between the driver's ears. So first 10 of our sleds are down, and we have the remaining 8 to go. If they all complete their runs successfully, they will all go through to the second heat. Next up then, Jürgen Loacker, with Matti Juhart behind him. The Austrian a little bit further down the start draw than some of the minor nations like Australia and the Czech Republic, because he just doesn't have the FIBT ranking. Really tough season so far for Jürgen Loacker. Top 2 results, 17th place finishes. He's been 17th, 18th and 19th in the 5 races so far this year. It's not where the Austrians expect or want to be.
No, definitely not. I mean, their starts have not been the fastest, and you know, at this day and age in our sport, the starts make a big difference, but he's having a great run so far, really smooth. He knows how to drive. A little bit high there on corner 12. Transition 11-12 was a little bit rough. He was able to save it though, but it caused a bit of a skid down in through 13, which again, before a flat part on this track, you really don't want to give away any parts.
Well, his brakeman formerly slid for Germany, got injured, had a couple of years off, and came back magically as an Austrian. 57.90 leaves them at the moment in 7th place. And Kaylee, we talked about this at the beginning. It is a chance for some of the really big names not here for everybody else to pull up the rankings a little. So you've got to seize that opportunity with both hands.
You definitely do, and he did a very good job there on this run. Came out into corner 12 there, goes a little bit high. This corner, like we saw yesterday with Paula, it is possible, even though the corner does not look very big, to crash there. He was able to control it. kind of do the best that he can in through 13, but that transition, he's just got a really big cross from 11 into 12, and he needs to just make sure that he prevents that sled from going any higher. As you can see with the coaching staff, it's real close. That one we see on numerous people. I've done it. I know a lot of people have, so that was a close one, but he got away with it, and you know, he'll look to have another clean run for second run.
Well, start draw number 12 now is Loic Kosterg of France, with Roman Heinrich behind him. Loic in his first year as a World Cup driver, and these guys have only been in bobsledding for 2 or 3 seasons, so still very much learning the trade. Loic just 25 years old, from Thonon-les-Bains, not far from where we were just before Christmas at La Plagne, and of course coached by the great Frenchman Bruno Mijon. Not too often you hear that at the top, the crew counting away in French. So used to hearing it in German or in English, but yeah, French, 1, 2, 3, 5:50 getaway. And again, you know, at the moment, they are looking for a place in the top 10, definitely on a start the same as Jürgen Loacker. See what this young Frenchman can produce.
Yeah, they definitely are. Bit of a rough transition in through 4 or 5, and you know, he's not the same pilot as Jürgen Loacker, so I think it'll definitely be, you know, a challenge to get into the top 10. We do have some really good names there, although we are missing some of the other top ones, so the opportunity is always there. But yeah, see what he can do.
109 in, 110 out of the Kreisel. Again, he's on target for a top 10 finish, and actually this is looking relatively smooth. Why did I say that as he gets sideways over the brow?
Right as you say it, this track never ends, and right as you think, you know, it's been a decent run, it'll throw some you know, wrenches into you. But overall, that was a good run. You know, 14 to 15 was probably his roughest transition with that skid into that straightaway, but everything else looked pretty good to me.
He comes down in 7th place in the first heat, ahead of Jürgen Loacker and Oscar Smelbardis. So there's the 2 good scalps to be poached right in front of. A little bit of tape come off something there as he gets out the sled.
In through 13. Comes into 14 nice, a bit of a high line, causes him to drop out of the corner a little bit early, and he just goes and taps that right wall right at the beginning of the straightaway. Not an even tap, causes him to have that skid all the way around the corner.
Great follow-away shot there. 116 kilometers an hour, 81 miles an hour down at the bottom of the track. Well, the umbrella's going down. Looking out the window, it still looks like it's drizzling a little, but again, conditions may well start to change on the track now. David Kupczyk and Marcin Navarra, Poland 1 and Poland 2 sleds are both here. And again, for them, great opportunity to rack up some points. With 3 US sleds and 3 Russian sleds missing, that leaves 6 more spots for everybody else to fill.
It's a weird race. I don't think we've ever had these top nations not competing during a World Cup event, but understandably they are all in St. Maurice preparing for Worlds there.
48.8 kilometers an hour, 30 miles an hour through that first speed trap. It's so important to keep the speed up on those slow flat sections, and it'll rattle there. I'd say this season, David Kupczyk just doesn't seem to have found his touch. He's normally a lot smoother than we've seen. 108 into the Kreisel. Won't be much more than 108 coming out of it either. At the moment, 9th place.
Not the smoothest run. Not the smoothest one we've seen from David, but in general, a few little things here and there. At the top of the track, he definitely, sled was just kind of bouncing around a little bit, and you need to be able to have good speed and good time at the bottom. You need to be able to have that top section better, and wasn't the best in straightaways. Hit a couple times, had a bit of a skid, and that's where, you know, currently sitting in 10th position.
Yep.
With that type of run, it's understandable.
Now, if the rain is actually going to stop, then the second run could be very different indeed. These guys getting away from the start, 5:47. That's not a bad getaway in the company in which they find themselves.
Comes out of corner 4 into corner 5 a little bit too aggressively, and you just see him hit the wall going into 5. These corners link one after another, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what that does is pushes him away from corner 6, causes him to go high, come out, and hit before 7. You really got to make sure you link all those corners one into the other, and that's where you had the bit of a rough start at the beginning.
Next up for Slovakia, Milan Janešek and Vladimir Simic on the back handles of the two-man sled. Let's see what these guys can produce. If they can break into the top 10, then that would be a fantastic result for Milan. Again, no pressure on them other than what is brought by the track itself, because there are not more than 20 sleds here, so he knows that he's sealed in for a second heat if he can get it down in one piece.
Nice start so far. Corner 1, corner 2. No big issues. Corner 3 into 4. Nice smooth entrance down into 5. Nice down into 6. You're really seeing his driving skill come out here. So far, looks like a smooth run.
He's avoided some of the slides until he gets onto the straightaways. He can get onto the Kreisel okay. Keeps a nice flat line around, looking for that little red rag, hanging at the exit to pull it back down.
He does. The corners look nice. He's not quite hitting all the straightaways out of corner 9. Definitely had a few taps and a few skids, and that'll kill your speed down from the bottom. Out of Kreisel, again, a few taps going into corner 11.
Another different looking sled for Milan. I wonder if that's all part of the equation as well, because KB, you know, as a driver, you know, when you get into a rental car and, you know, the windshield wipers and the turn signals, everything's in a different place, and it takes you a little while to get used to it. There's got to be much more of a step change when you get into a different bobsled, because the steering, the way the steering works, will be completely different to what you're used to. So.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, every single sled has slightly different steering, and the feeling is different. And so, I mean, he's had 6 runs, if not less, to really sort it out, which is not very many. And so, even on race day, you're still trying to figure out and adjust how much is just quite enough, how much is too much or not enough. And so he's done an amazing job, considering it's a new sled and he's still trying to figure it out. But generally, it's all those little taps and hits on the way down, in and out of corners, that just kills your time and speed.
Well, in a sport that's all about feel, if you change the feel of the bobsled, you change everything. You know, nothing remains the same.
No, you know where the pressures are and what you got to do. That's about it.
Next up, Patrice Sauvel and Elie Lefort for Monaco. And with Monaco's other young pilot having produced, or having disappeared to go off to the Junior Worlds, Patrice is back on the World Cup. Rudy Rinaldi, a 20-year-old who made his World Cup debut in Winterberg. 5:57 getaway, that's not a bad start for Monaco.
No, that's in there, I mean, on the higher ends, but still within the realm of everybody else, and Patrice knows how to drive. He is a very good pilot, so I think we're definitely going to see that time continue to drop all the way down the track. He knows this track. He's been on the circuit for a long time. He's an experienced pilot. One little tap out of corner 9, nothing major.
Good speed there, 109.7 onto the Kreisel. Is he in the 110s? 109.1 on the exit, so 67.8 miles an hour. At the moment, he's come down from 13th at the start into 11th place on the splits and is picking up time. 115 kilometers an hour is 71 miles an hour, 11th place finish. There's Bruno Mijon on the right, who's catching the Monegasques as well.
From Monaco, 1 and 11th place.
So 11th place for Patrice Sauvel, behind David Kupchik by 0.08 of a second. And again, these guys have got to be looking to try and get a top 10 finish out of this. Patrice has had a bit of a patchy season so far. Best results for him in World Cup have been a pair of 20th. He's missed the Cup twice this year, Kaylee. That's not a sentence you expect to hear.
No, it's not. It's a bit unexpected for sure, but definitely something that, you know, hopefully with a good result here, he'll be able to turn around and change.
Matthias Lutti of Poland, and you can see how wet it is outside the start area. The sled's still covered in rain. All the two-man crews, the same dimensions for the men as for the women. The maximum weight for the women is slightly less because the crew normally weighs less, but Kaylee, you end up pushing a couple of 100 kilos of sled the same as the guys do. You just got a little bit less muscle power to fire it off.
Yeah, you definitely do. And I mean, the size, especially inside the sled, is a little bit different when your shoulders and all your other body parts aren't quite the same size, so you just make adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have 6'6", 220-pound linebackers in the women's game. Not just yet, anyway. I'm sure eventually it'll come. Okay, 5.50, and that's a pretty respectable getaway for Poland too, as well. That's the 10th fastest start.
Yeah, very good start.
Let's see what young Matthias Lutti can produce on this run. Still just 22, no, he's not. 23 years old, January 1st he was.
Very young pilot.
Got a couple of kids who are just out of high school. 21-year-old Francesco Frugiglai second. This kid now just turned 23. Loic Costeg of France just 20. 7.3 on the exit, so not carrying too much speed. 10th fastest start, he's down to 15th place at the moment. On the right is Martin Kupczyk, coaching the Polish. His son David now slides, but he competed for Poland back in the 1960s and early 70s when there was 40 sleds in the Polish championships. Of course, in those days, lots more countries had tracks because they were all natural tracks. The artificial tracks that have superseded them and made running possible in warm, sunny conditions.
You see him hang it off of corner 8 there, and it causes him to go into 9. He goes real high. That's the highest we've seen anybody in 9. He drops out of the corner a little bit, and he really has to just crank it off to make sure he doesn't go back up at the end. He did a great job saving it, though, and came out, one tiny tap in the straightaway, adjusted, and it goes in.
Well, his best result this season, 24th place in Winterberg, and he is currently in 15th spot after the first heat. He was the 16th of our 18 sleds. 2 to go then. And again for Michael Cerise and Lino van Doorn of Belgium. An opportunity to put themselves up towards the top 10 of a World Cup race. I think everybody understands that this is a great opportunity not to be squandered. If these guys can get down to a 5.50 start, they'll be doing themselves a great service in the getaway. 5.63, that is 16th in the start ranks. So just ahead of Milan Janaszak.
Not a great start. As he came out of corner 2, had a bit of a skid and a few little taps going into 3. That's going to kill his time and speed a little bit. So yeah, we'll see what he can do driving-wise down on the rest of this track.
Well, best result this season so far, 22nd place in Winterberg. Missed the cut there. Been no problems. This will be the first time all year he's had a second heat. 108.9 on the way in. What has he got on the way out? 108.5. A little bit wavy through the Kreisel, Kaylee. You want to be as flat as you can through that 360-degree corner.
You do. You want to have a flat line. Too flat, you're working too hard, but definitely you don't want to have as big of a wave as what we just saw with Michael. Yeah, too much, you're traveling too far, and the corner actually is made very, very difficult. It's very hard. They're big, big pressures. This Kreisel is extremely tight. I think it's the tightest one we do on tour, and you really have to be on top of it. Otherwise, it makes the exit nearly impossible, and the chance of crashing is extremely high.
And what you don't see from the outside is how much the driver has to crane the neck right round to see round the Kreisel because it is so tight.
It does. You see him go into this corner extremely late. That doesn't help. You see the pilot's head snap in, and you go through, and you really just got to try and crank the steering. Pressure, you can only do what you can with the corner. And so, you know, he did the best that he could and came out fine.
You could see there from the camera shot just how much he was craning his neck round to try and see round the corner, because like everything else, where your eyes go, that's where the sled will follow. There you see the mascots here around the track. I wonder how waterproof those suits are. Not very, I'm thinking. Our final sled of the first heat then is Dorin Grigore of Romania and Florin Crasuin behind him. And the Romanian program, both girls' sleds had good runs yesterday. We've seen Andy Niagu in the last couple of races. Now Florin is back. 5:54 getaway, again 10th of a second faster than the Belgians who've just gone away in front of them, so 13th at the start. You can see that Dorin Grigore is tucked nice and low behind the cowling, trying to get himself out of the airstream. Rattling from the sled. The taps on the wall. And Kaylee, with the rain pretty much having stopped now, maybe the track is starting to frost a little, and that will make it slower and a bit stickier for the runners to try and go over.
It definitely will. It makes it easier for the pilots to drive. You've got more control. It's like using snow tires in snowy conditions, but it definitely slows it down and is not nearly as fast. So bit of an offset, and then to go in from extremely frosty conditions in the corners to the extremely wet and slick conditions on the straightaways, it makes for a very challenging drive.
58.38 slide, 15th place for Dorin Grigore. It's good news for him, as we said. Best result so far of the season has been a finish in 22nd spot, so he will take a lot from that.
Comes out of corner 14 there, and again drops out a little bit early. Oh no, that's Kreisel. Maybe I should know my corners a little bit better.
Well, you know them looking through them, not from the outside.
I know, different views.
You know, if you get that view of Kreisel,
sure
something's gone very wrong. So let's take a look then at our race leader, Thomas Florschutz and Kevin Kuska. Didn't have the best, didn't have the worst of conditions. They came down in the rain, but they did avoid the frost, and he leads by 0.04 of a second. We've got a real tight battle for the lead between Florschutz and Friedrich, two Saxon drivers, two drivers from Germany on their home ice here at the DKB Ice Canal. Look how tight that battle is for gold, and behind for the podium as well. Lyndon Rush, 200s behind him is Manny Mahata. A tie for 5th place, Jackson and Batazzo, and behind them a lot of potential for change, especially if the weather continues to change. It just started raining again as I look out the window, so that little break in the weather has gone. Who knows what it's going to be doing in half an hour from now when they get back on the ice. One thing's for certain, I don't think we're going to be seeing anybody in shirt sleeve conditions this morning. Well, that's it then for the first of our two heats. It is Wiesmann FIBT World Cup number 6 for the 2-man bobsleigh here in Altenberg, Germany. Join Kaylee Humphries and me, Martin Haven, for the second heat. And don't forget, you can catch all the action live and all the stats and information you need to know on FIBT.com.
Als Pilot. Markus Ulrich, der Innenminister aus unserem Freistaat Sachsen und natürlich auch damit Sportminister.